Good day, everyone. Today I'll be discussing the national heroes. So first we have Lapu-Lapu. Lapu-Lapu is known as the first national hero because nilaban siya against the Spanish who tried to control the Philippines. Lapu-Lapu led the native forces sa Battle of Mactan atong 1521 and he defeated the famous Spanish invader nga si Magellan and his forces, showing that Filipino could fight back against Spanish invader or foreign invaders. So this victory is very important, no? It's because it stopped Spanish from taking control sa Philippines during at that time. And his bravery made him a symbol of courage and freedom for the Filipino people, and sa pakipaglaban niya against the Spanish, many Filipino people are inspired to defend their land and fight for their freedom. By defeating Magellan and the Spanish, Lapu-Lapu helped protect the Filipino culture and the way of life from foreign influence. His leadership showed that Filipino could keep their identity even if they face powerful invaders. Second is Sultan Kudarat. Sultan Kudarat is an important leader of the Moro people or the Muslims sa southern Philippines. He ruled Mindanao for over 52 years, and during his time, Spaniards tried to take control sa Philippines including ang Mindanao, and nilaban si Sultan Kudarat and protected Mindanao from being conquered. So before pa mahimo leader si Kudarat is that the Moro tribes were separated and iyan ning gitapok nga mga tribes to make them stronger and united sa pakipaglaban nila against sa mga Spaniard. Gabriela Silang. Gabriela Silang was a women leader during sa time nga usually ang mga lalaki ra ang galid sa battles and revolt. Nilaban siya sa independence sa Ilocos from the Spanish na nagkontrol sa Philippines, and she inspired many people nga mo join para mulaban sa independence. Her husband was Diego Silang. He was a leader of a revolution against the Spanish rule. Unfortunately, namatay ang iyang bana because he was betrayed and gipatay siya sa mga tao nga nagsupport sa mga Spanish. And after his death, many of his followers were afraid and gusto na mo stop og laban. But Gabriela did not give up and she became the new leader and continue niya kung unsa ang nasugdan ni Diego. Gabriela organized Filipino warriors and led them into battle against the mga Spanish forces. She fought for the rights and freedom sa iyang Filipinos even though powerful kayo mga Spanish, but then she refused to surrender and nilaban gyud siya. Fourth one is Melchora Aquino, also known as Tandang Sora. Tandang means old woman and Sora is her name. Despite being 84 years old during sa Philippine Revolution, Tandang Sora played a very important role during at that time. She became known as the Grand Woman of the Revolution tungod sa iyang pagsuporta sa katipunan. She helped the revolution by providing shelter, food, and care sa mga fighters. And she also called the mother of Balintawak, and she died at the age of 107. Moving on, Marcelo H. del Pilar. So Marcelo was not just a writer, but he was also a political analyst. This means that he studied and understood the situation sa mga Filipinos living under sa Spanish rule, especially katong mga naa sa Spain. Iyang gi-examine ang struggle sa mga Filipinos and use his knowledge to find ways to fight for their rights. And ang iyang leadership and writings nakatabang to unite the Filipinos abroad to push for reforms. Marcelo's greatest contribution was founding the nationalistic newspaper or Diaryong Tagalog. Mao ni ang first bilingual newspaper sa Pilipinas nga na-publish both Tagalog and Spanish. Ang goal ani nga newspaper was to educate their rights and encourage them to fight against the Spanish oppression. And tungod ani, he made information more accessible to ordinary Filipinos, dili lang ang mga educated elite or dili lang ang mga naa sa taas. He became the editor of La Solidaridad, a newspaper published in Spain by the Filipino reformists. Carciano Lopez Hena is the founder and the first editor of the newspaper La Solidaridad. La Solidaridad is mo na siyang newspaper that shared sa mga struggles sa mga Pinoy under sa Spanish rule. It was used to spread awareness about sa unfair treatment sa mga Filipinos, and he was the first editor and he led the way in using writing as a weapon against the Spanish rule. He gave strong speeches that made Filipino realize na they deserve better treatment. His words encouraged Filipinos nga mulaban for justice and equal rights, and iyang gigamit iyang writings and speeches to expose the abuse sa Spanish government. The next one is Jose Rizal. Siya ang nagsulat sa most famous books nga No Limitang Here, and this book showed the abuses of the Spanish officials and pari sa Philippines. On the other hand, ang El Fili atong 1892 was a darker and more serious book nga it showed how Filipinos suffered even more under sa Spanish rule. Tungod ani nga mga books, namulat ang mga Filipino sa katotohanan about sa Spanish rule. He advocated for peaceful reform instead of violent revolution because he believed that the best way to change society was through education and peaceful means, dili war. Tonyo Lona was known as one of the best generals during sa Philippine-American War. Siya ang nag-lead sa mga Filipino soldiers in many battles even though wala sila enough equipment or training compared sa Americans. The editor of La Independencia. La Independencia was a newspaper that helped spread the idea sa revolution. As the editor, gigamit ni Luna a newspaper to talk about the struggle for independence and to encourage Filipinos to keep fighting against the Spanish and American forces. Before siya mahimong general, he was part sa propaganda movement sa Spain along with Jose Rizal and other leaders. He worked to ask the Spanish government to reforms to improve the lives sa mga Filipinos, and he used his writing, speeches, and newspapers to spread their message and demand justice sa mga Filipinos. His work in Spain helped bring attention to the problems Filipinos face and inspired others to join nga mulaban for freedom. And Juan Luna was known as a genius with a paintbrush tungod sa iyang skills as an artist, and he was also known for creating the famous painting Espolarium, and kaning painting ga show the suffering and death sa mga Filipinos under sa Spanish rule. While Andres Bonifacio, called as the father of revolution, kay he started the first real fight against the Spanish government. Then he founded the KKK. August 23, 1896, Bonifacio and his men gathered sa Balintawak. Dito na nga time tong gitor nila ang sedula as a sign to protest, showing that they no longer wanted to follow Spanish rule. And this event is known as the Cry of Pugadlawin, marking official start sa Philippine Revolution. Apolinario Mabini, known as the Kilang Lumpo and the brain of revolution. He was called the Kilang Lumpo, which means the great paralytic, because he lost the ability to walk due to polio. Pero even though dili siya makalaban physically, gigamit niya instead iyang kabright to help the revolution. Additionally, Mabini was one of the main people na set up sa First Philippine Republic. Emilio Jacinto, also known as the brain of the Katipunan. Jacinto started the Katipunan newspaper called Kalayaan or Freedom. The newspaper was secretly printed and spread across the country, and it helped recruit new members sa Katipunan by encouraging Filipinos na mulaban against the Spanish government.